So, exactly 19 years ago today, well, today's the Abbey's birthday, in the sense 19 years ago today, um, one nun and two cats moved into Ananda. Yeah. And some of her friends from Seattle came during that weekend, too. And those friends from Seattle were lay people who never were interested in ordaining. So, and we even have a video of them loading up a trailer full of stuff that was brought over here. Because when we got the building, when we first bought the land, we had Ananda. The meditation hall there was actually down here. Yeah, this building didn't exist. There was the barn. There was not shanty cabin. That was built later. There was a small log cabin out on the other end. And that was, Gotami wasn't there, Prajna wasn't there. Yeah. So we were moving into Ananda. And the previous owners, Harold and Vicky, had just moved out. They were an older couple, and they needed to live closer to town for medical reasons. I think they were very happy that we moved in here. Yeah. But what I don't want to spend the whole time talking. I want to share it with the two people who also came, noting that we all arrived on a Friday evening, and we had breakfast together Saturday morning, and then we were all in agreement. And the first thing we headed to do was take down the curtains because they had these outrageously ugly large curtains in the main room in Ananda, in what is now Venerable Jigme's office in Ananda, and we had to get rid of those curtains. Everybody agreed. Okay, so what are your reflections on that, and also the significance of it?
So coming to Ananda for the first time, it seemed so huge. Like,
Yeah.
what is she going to do with all this space? Her and two cats. And of course, back then, I had no idea how you got nuns. It's like, is it mail order? Or how do you get them? Where do they come from? So that was interesting. And the curtains were just so terrible. It was like a mausoleum in there, so heavy, and I think they were dark blue or something and flowered. Oh, they were so ugly. So we pulled all those down, and then we had some. We brought some old furniture and some new furniture. So we were putting the furniture together. We were getting the kitchen fixed up. So Venerable had some. Utensils and plates and da-da-da. What else did we do? We ate, of course.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing was, back then I had absolutely no idea what this was going to be. I had no idea. I knew that it was important, and I knew whatever it was, she had an idea. And it would go forward. I knew that part. But from my own side, I had no idea.
Yeah, we filled a U-Haul full of furniture. We had some friends. We had Jiwa and Paul Dragoni, David from Brooklyn, Tracy, Alice, Richard, and Venerable Jigme and I. And it was one of those things, we're bringing all this stuff across the state with this little U-Haul behind Venerable Jigme's little Honda she had. and we're going on a field trip. We're going on a road trip. We're going to help our teacher move into this place. And of course, we hadn't seen it yet. We'd only seen pictures. We'd heard that when she saw the picture of Ananda with those beautiful windows, looks like a bow of a ship. That was like the selling point, was all the sunlight that was just cascading into those windows. So we got her. She didn't have that much furniture. I mean, if the video shows, Achi, the old cat, sort of wandering from room to room, totally disoriented, kind of trying to figure his life out. And Venerable had purchased, as part of the overall, Haroldina, who we still have, who's now 47 years old, a big old truck. But Harold had the most amazing, heavy-duty, early American medium oak furniture that took 4 people to move a side table. She bought the furniture, she bought the side tables, the big oak table, and over the course of the years, that furniture had a home in every room in that building and beyond. I think half it's down at Tara's now. But to see how big the space was, like Venerable Jigme said, Tracy and Alice had filled the cupboards with plates and dishes, silverware. They had cooked meals for us. There was a lot of just moving. Harold and Vicky had been accumulators of antiques. So before Venerable moved in, they had to pack away little stoves and saws and early old, pioneer antiques and things. So by the time she moved in, the place was pretty bare except for these curtains. But it looked like somebody's home. You never thought of monastery. You never thought of Abbey. You thought Venerable had moved into this big house with these 2 cats. One of the things that is amazing is that at that time, all the trees on this property were a whole lot smaller. Everything was groomed. Harold and Vicky had done this amazing job of keeping this self-landscaped for the sale. And of course, it's gotten wilder and more beautiful as the years have gone on. And so we were only here for a few days, but the collective energy of getting a sense that this was the beginning of something we didn't know what it was going to be, but we knew, as Venerable Jigme said, that Venerable had made these prayers. It had come this far. She'd had the money to put the down payment on, and then it was going to take a collective energy of wisdom and joyous effort to really make this happen. So to see her sort of as the captain of this ship, and the rest of us as the crew. And we kind of showed up as time went on, but we were 2 lay people. I had no idea. I was going to come and help her out that winter. I was going to help with the garden, help get other people to come up and help her. But by the spring of that next year, I had come here and spent the winter while she was in India, and I fell in love with the place. And I said, boy, you'd be stupid if you didn't go there and give her a hand, because it really was Venerable and 2 cats. I mean, that was it. She had a few people come and go, but it was really in its seed form. And you could see that it needed a lot of help to be watered and nourished and cared for. And that Venerable was taking on the germination of something very, very big. And that's really the sense that you could get. And it was a cold fall day. It was little snow flurries, but sunny and stunning, and like today, but colder.
And did you bless the land that first weekend, or was that later?
No, the blessing with Kenzer Wangdak, that happened late. That happened in
Summer
the summer.
2004.
I thought you did something.
I
too.
probably did something.
Yeah, up on the up in the meadow.
I used to go on the upper meadow and sing this one, chant this one verse every morning when it was just me living here, inviting all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to come to the place. So I'd walk up to the top of the meadow and do that. What really touched me in coming here was Tracy and Alice, who I had never met before, had brought towels and bed things and filled the kitchen with food. And I was just so touched here, these people who I didn't even know, coming and preparing for it. And they also didn't have any idea what a monastery was. And at the beginning, that one of the big challenges that we faced was helping people to understand that this place was not a private house, and it was not a Dharma center. It was a monastery. Yeah. And a monastery is different because, people would come and they would want to cook, and which is great, but then kind of hang out in the evenings and talk, kind of like it was, hanging out with your friends. And no, it's a monastery. We have a schedule. If you're going to be here, we're going to meditate. And that time, because the garage, which is now the meditation hall, was still a garage, we meditated in the big room in Ananda. And as time went on, we were sleeping in Ananda. The downstairs was not finished at that time. The one room that is Venerable Sultram's office now, that was the only one that was a room. The rest was
concrete and framing and insulation and plastic on the walls, and
yeah. And so the first few work parties we had were dedicated to putting ceilings in the room, dividing the space into rooms. They had one big wooden bar. Yeah, do you remember that?
a wet bar with
Yeah.
a fireplace. You can imagine the pool table, the card table.
Yeah. So we got rid of that. But then putting the floor downstairs, the flooring, painting, everything.
The room downstairs, there was no hallway. So Venerable Lamsel and Venerable Nawang's office now was connected. The bathroom was right in that room. That little room in the back was just a concrete hole in the wall. So that whole hallway was built to separate the hallway from the bathroom from that room. So that was one huge space.
Yeah. So there's many people who came here over the initial years to really help put the place together. Yeah. And we had a second work party 2 weeks after we moved in. And that was the first time we brought the wood in and stocked the furnace room.
Through the chute with Harold. Harold came to help.
Show how,
Yeah, to show us how to do it. Throw the logs down the chute.
And the weather was so cold, we were trying to plant tulip bulbs, and we were using a pickaxe because the ground was so frozen. That was Sundru and Rebecca.
Yeah.
But Harold showed us how to stack it, and he was so wonderful just to come and spend the day with us. That first time.
Yeah.
He was checking us out to see if it was, if things were okay.
Yeah. And then we drove around the land then too. And it was a good thing we stacked the wood because it snowed on Halloween, which was like, I think, the day after you left. Yeah.
It was cold.
So,
It was single digits that night.
Yeah. So those first few months were, people used to say to me, aren't you afraid to stay there alone? There's animals in the forest. You're going and walking in the forest, and there's, cougars and bear and moose and chipmunks. And, aren't you afraid to be there alone? And I said, actually, I'm more afraid to walk in an American city alone at night than I am to walk around this land, because I don't think any of the animals are going to hurt me. Yeah, and I used to walk around in the afternoons. Harold had taken me on a tour in Heraldina, okay, and I had a very rough map that I made of everything. It was really nice going with Harold. I remember going down Joyous Effort.
You can't see the ground that you're driving on.
Yes, you're sitting in the front of the truck and you're driving into nowhere. Yeah. And then in those days, the path, when you go up to the Four Corners, that other path that goes into the neighbor's land, it was more open. So I used to go walking in there, and Harold took me driving in there too. Again, kind of, it reminded me of Dharamsala, the hill on this side and the cliff on the other side. Yeah, yeah. But it was really amazing how so many people came, and the FOSA, Friends of Sravasti Abbey, began to get organized, and then people volunteered for different positions, and then at some point, was it that winter or the next winter when you came?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, so it was the first spring we were here. Then you came and stayed a few months. Yeah. Um, yeah, and then slowly people started coming. I was getting phone calls from the beginning, different people. I don't know how they found out, but people just curious about it. And then people started to come. And then that very first summer, because we moved in October, that very first summer, um, we transformed the garage into a meditation hall. Yeah. So we were already, going. And then that winter, the winter of 74, 75, we had the.
2004.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Some of you weren't born yet, but
I was almost, just a few years off.
The first winter retreat was in the winter of 2004, Vajrasattva.
Yeah. So right away we started having winter retreats, and then after that we started having the summer for young adults and EML and
sharing the Dharma Day.
sharing the Dharma Day.
There were open houses
Yeah,
back
the
then.
open house.
Yeah.
Houses, yeah.
Yeah.
But then it got so crowded and busy. We would have sharing the Dharma Day, and we would have these plastic tables in the dining or the living room in Ananda, where the big Buddha Tonka is, and you would get your food and sit down, and then you couldn't get back up until
Yeah.
somebody behind you moved. It was so crowded.
Yeah.
40, 50 people in
Yeah.
that living room,
Yeah.
on the stairs, out on the decks, cooking in
And
a-
cooking
in
in
that,
there.
in that little kitchen with a
Yeah.
little stove and an oven and a refrigerator.
I don't know how we did
Yeah.
it.
It was fun.
So,
Yeah.
It was fun.